Did you know that one of the biggest refugee crises in West Africa in recent years is happening right now? Because in Ghana, over 13,000 people have fled their homes, some running into Côte d'Ivoire, others crossing into Burkina Faso. Entire villages are now empty. More than 30 people are confirmed dead, but barely anyone is talking about it. No fancy headlines, no ECOWAS emergency meeting, no African Union response, just silence. But what really caused it? Not terrorism, I can tell you that for sure. Not war either. Just a land dispute that blew up into a full-blown humanitarian disaster overnight. It started in Gbiniyiri, a quiet farming area in Ghana's Savannah Region. On the surface, it looked like a local issue. But when tensions between two ethnic groups boiled over in late August, it turned into chaos. There were gunfire, houses were burned, communities wiped out, women and children ran for their lives, schools were shut down, farmers left their crops. Now, thousands are stuck in camps, living on one meal a day, and still, nobody is talking about it. So where is the African Union? Where is ECOWAS? What happened to never again? Why does it feel like some African lives matter more than others? This story isn't just about Ghana. It's a warning for all of West Africa, because if a simple land dispute can turn into a refugee crisis overnight, how many other communities are sitting on a ticking time bomb? In this episode, we break down what really happened, who's to blame, and what this tells us about leadership, land, and loyalty in today's Africa. Let's get into it. Every disaster starts somewhere. For Gbiniyiri, it began with something simple, a land sale. Because years ago, the local chief sold part of the community's land to a private real estate developer. But when the developer finally showed up to start construction on August 24th, 2025, some locals said, "No way, not on our land." What should have been a peaceful disagreement turned into a deadly ethnic clash. On one side, you had the Gonja people, who said the land has always belonged to their ancient kingdom. On the other side, the Brifor community, who believed they were there first and have rightful ownership. It's the oldest kind of conflict in the book. Who was here first and who owns the land now? But when you throw in colonial history, traditional power, and today's struggle for scarce resources, the mix becomes explosive. Things really escalated when the local chief and his son visited to calm tensions and were attacked. That was a direct slap to traditional authority. Soon after, the chief of Kaba was killed, shaking the whole region. But the moment everything changed, when Gbiniyiri chief's palace was burned down. In many African communities, that's like declaring war, not just on a person, but on the whole traditional system. At first, reports said 5 or 6 people had died, but it didn't stop there. Violence spread fast, hitting at least 12 surrounding communities. What started as one land argument quickly turned into a district-wide disaster involving multiple ethnic groups and chieftaincies. The spark was lit, the fire was spreading, and what followed would force nearly 50,000 people to flee and create one of West Africa's biggest refugee crises in years. By the start of September, that land dispute had become something much worse. The official death toll went from just a handful to 31 confirmed deaths. But here is the thing. Some fear the real toll is higher than the confirmed 31. That's a huge gap, which raises a serious question. Did the government lose control, or are they trying to hide how bad it really got? This wasn't just a gunfire in a few villages. Entire communities were wiped out. Families ran for their lives. Farmers abandoned their land right in the middle of harvest season. Markets closed. Schools shut down. Life just stopped. But the most heartbreaking part, some families were so scared they risked their lives crossing the Black Volta River just to escape to Côte d'Ivoire. Think about that. Drowning in a river seems safer than staying in your own country. And right now, this conflict has taken an ugly ethnic turn because the Gonja Land Youth Association released a strong message. We will defend every inch of our land with our voice, our will, and if needed, our blood. This wasn't just about land anymore. It had become a fight over identity, a fight over who belongs. Meanwhile, Brifor villages near Sola were abandoned. Women and children crowded into Sala police station, hoping for protection. It's a powerful image. Citizens running to a police station, not for justice, but for basic safety. What started as sparks had turned into full-blown flames. Flames that were burning through communities, families, and trust. And while the people ran, starved, and suffered, the institutions that were supposed to protect them are still watching in silence. Now, behind every number is a real person. And the stories coming out of Ghana are gut-wrenching. Imagine this. One day, you are sleeping in your own bed, and the next, you are in a foreign country with nothing but the clothes on your back. That's exactly what happened to over 13,000 Ghanaians now living as refugees in Côte d'Ivoire. At the displacement camp in Sola, Ivory Coast, families are trying to survive on just 1 meal per day. One father, Alassane Usman, said, "We left everything behind when the fighting started. Now, we have nothing to feed our children." When a basic meal becomes a luxury, you know something has gone horribly wrong. But the most chilling moment is a woman at the Sola police station. She told reporters, "We haven't eaten since we got here, but we are not hungry. We just want to leave Sola." Just let that sink in. These people were so afraid. Even hunger, the most basic human instinct, was no longer their biggest concern. That's what trauma looks like. That's what happens when fear takes over your entire life. It gets worse. Ghana's Disaster Response Agency, NADMO, and the Red Cross were so overwhelmed, they had to publicly beg for help. In the Bono region, officials issued an appeal for urgent support, a clear sign that the system couldn't cope. And then, the reports of families drowning while trying to cross over into Ivory Coast. That's not just desperation, that's a complete collapse of faith in your own country's ability to protect you. This wasn't just displacement, this was a message to the Ghanaian government. We don't believe you can keep us safe. And when citizens start saying that with their feet, by literally running, it's not just a crisis, it's a full-blown failure of leadership. Now, let's look at the numbers, because numbers, they say, don't lie. Because over 48,000 people are affected. That's like wiping out a whole city overnight and asking everyone to survive on emergency aid. A total of 13,253 Ghanaians are now officially registered as refugees in Côte d'Ivoire. That's not just a rumor. That's from Ghana's own interior minister, confirmed by Ivorian authorities. Another 747 people fled to Burkina Faso, and roughly 34,000 are still displaced within Ghana. Here's why this matters so much. Ghana is supposed to be one of West Africa's most stable democracies, a model country. But this crisis exposed how quickly things can fall apart, and how even the most peaceful places can explode if old tensions are left to rot. Worse was, the ethnic group at the center of this violence, the Brifor, don't just live in Ghana. They live across Burkina Faso and Côte d'Ivoire too. They don't care about colonial borders. So when they are attacked in Ghana, it sends shockwaves across the region. Families on the other side are watching, angry and afraid. This could easily spread. Even Ghana's interior minister admitted this, warning that hostile actors could cross borders and create problems in neighboring countries. Translation: things could still get a lot worse. But here is the stat that hurts the most. Zero official statement from ECOWAS or the African Union. Yes, you heard that right. Over 13,000 refugees, dozens killed, and entire communities destroyed, and not a single word from the people who are supposed to protect the region. During the same week, ECOWAS was busy holding meetings about cyber diplomacy and farm policies. Not a single sentence about a growing humanitarian disaster in one of its member states. It makes you wonder, does ECOWAS care more about protecting presidents than protecting their own people? Now, when the violence broke out, Ghana's government did what governments usually do: send in troops first, ask questions later. They deployed over 700 military and police officers to the region. A curfew was declared from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. The Inspector General of Police flew in and told everyone the situation was under control. Translation: we've stopped the shooting, so we are good. But here's the real story. While the bullets may have stopped, nothing was actually solved. And here's where it gets really revealing. President John Dramani Mahama's top move wasn't to speak to displaced people or visit camps. He picked up the phone and called the king of Gonja kingdom. His government then rushed to the Japa police to negotiate peace, not with both sides, but with one side's traditional ruler. Basically, the state handed over the crisis to the same traditional structure that has sparked the problem in the first place. Think about that. Instead of forming a neutral investigation into the land dispute, the government leaned into a centuries-old hierarchy, one that many believe caused the violence in the first place. That's like giving the steering wheel back to the driver who crashed the car. Sure, the interior minister promised a committee would be formed, but only after consulting the traditional chiefs. Again, reinforcing old power instead of using modern law. Let's be clear here. Engaging local chiefs matters, but when your response only empowers one ethnic group's leadership, you are not fixing the problem, you are feeding it. And while the government was busy with palace visits and curfews, refugee camps were still starving, kids were still traumatized, and the land dispute itself still untouched. It wasn't peace building, it was crisis containment, and it came way too late. Now, here's where the story gets really uncomfortable, not just for Ghana, but for the entire West African region. Côte d'Ivoire stepped up fast. They didn't just let refugees in, they worked directly with Ghana's government, coordinated security at the border, and offered help. Ghana's interior minister even went public to thank Ivorian authorities for their support. That's what real solidarity looked like. But what about the rest of the region? Where was ECOWAS, the body created to keep West Africa stable? Where was the African Union's Peace and Security Council? Nowhere. Not a single official statement, not a single press release. Meanwhile, ECOWAS was holding meetings, publishing updates, and discussing everything from cyber diplomacy to agricultural projects. But the refugee crisis in Ghana, not even a footnote. Same with the African Union, because in September 2025, they held sessions on climate change, peace building, and even had a summit in New York about preventing conflict in Africa. The irony is hard to miss. They were literally in the middle of a conference in preventing conflict, while thousands were running from burning homes in West Africa. Here's the cold truth. When there is a military coup, ECOWAS reacts immediately. Sanctions, meetings, threats of intervention. But when thousands of ordinary people are fleeing, starving, and dying, silence. Why? Because coups threaten president, refugees threaten the common man. And to make matter worse, this crisis is now being buried under broader refugee statistics. West and Central Africa already have over 12.7 million displaced people, mainly due to terrorism. So these 13,000 Ghanaian refugees, they are just getting absorbed into the numbers, invisible to the world. No trading hashtags, no international outcry, no summit, just another crisis brushed under Africa's carpet. So where do things stand now? Because as of right now, the gunshots have stopped, but the crisis isn't over. The land conflict that triggered all this still unresolved. The ethnic tensions between Gonja and Brifor communities still boiling quietly. And the 13,000 plus refugees in Côte d'Ivoire still stuck, living off handouts in camps, unsure if they will ever return home. But here's the part that should worry all of us. This might just be the beginning. Ghana's northern region is under pressure from climate change, population growth, and shrinking farmland. The same ingredients that blew up in Gbiniyiri exist in dozens of other communities across West Africa. This isn't just Ghana's problem. It could happen anywhere. Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Mali, Ivory Coast, anywhere land, tradition, and survival collide. The Gbiniyiri crisis isn't an isolated event. It's a preview of what's coming if we keep ignoring land rights, ethnic mistrust, and poor governance. If leaders don't act now, we'll see more violence, more displacement, and more forgotten people. But maybe the biggest failure of all, our institutions. ECOWAS and the African Union were built to protect Africans. But what they've shown is this. They respond fast when power is at stake, like after a coup. But when it's ordinary people dying, they go quiet. So here's the question. What happens when a simple land dispute becomes a national emergency and no one shows up? What happens when African solutions to African problems means doing nothing at all? Because if we don't fix this, if we keep letting broken systems decide who gets justice and who gets forgotten, we are next. Your town, your land, your people. The people of Gbiniyiri deserve better. The refugees in Côte d'Ivoire deserve better, and honestly, we all do. Now, if you have watched to this point, this is Frontline Africa, where we talk about Africa, where we talk about geopolitics from Africa's perspective. In this particular matter, it's a humanitarian crisis. Now, if you are in Ghana, if you are in the affected locations, kindly go to the comment section and tell us what is happening on ground. Tell me if I have gotten it wrong in any of my reports or if any of my sources haven't given me the right information. Go to the comment section and put the matter straight. Let us know exactly what is happening in Gbiniyiri and Ghana, because the smoke coming out of Ghana recently is getting me worried, and we should be talking about this, because today is about helicopter crashes, tomorrow is about a chieftaincy dispute, today is about land dispute, all leading to disaster and deploying of military. Let us know what is happening in Ghana. So go to the comment section and tell us what is happening. If you want to see more of my video, maybe consider to subscribe so you stay ahead and know exactly what is happening in Africa and everything about Africa. I am your host, Ezekiel Edejeta, and I will see you in the next one. It's a bye-bye for now.